Hello and welcome to a new episode of Stat Me Up here on Anfield Index. I'm in Eddie Gibbs and I'm stepping in for Dave Davis like I did on Media Matters, but this is a slightly different flavour as it's Stat Me Up and it's stats. And that, of course, means I'm joined by the stats guru himself. It's Dr. Phil Barts, or Barts, or Barter, or Barts, however you want to know him. It's really Dr. Phil Barter, but we like to call him Barts. I will be sharing his screen in a moment to look at the key numbers from Liverpool's dramatic 2-2 draw in the Merseyside derby. Before we get going, if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like button. We really do appreciate it because it makes so much difference to the YouTube algorithm. And we're seeing hundreds of people on these streams on only a handful of likes. So it's only a very quick thing for you to do to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you can, and it means the world to us. And of course, remember, you can comment on any of the stats that Dr. Barts is going to present to you just now as well. Use the comments, and if you have the capacity to do so, please do consider the super chat button. It really does help us improve the content on the channel with those small donations. The contributions are hugely appreciated. So before we do the stats, Barts, first of all, how are you? And what did you make? And I know it would have been late in Mauritius for this Merseyside derby. What were your initial thoughts on the game?
Yeah, it was late. I mean, this is one of those that sounds a bit old manish, but I will have a nap before the game because it kicked off at like 11:30, quarter to midnight. So, you know what I mean? When you got work the next day, it's difficult to start at 2 in the morning. But yeah, no, I think initially straight after half time, after the full time, it was frustration, annoyance, all the usual kind of stuff. I'm sure if anyone's listened to Raw already, the boys there are covered in many, many details. But no, I think that kind of yet again we've drawn a Goodison kind of thing was frustrating. But then, as hopefully we'll come on to and usually do with Stat Me Up, we kind of show a little bit on the stats, but I'm without giving too much away. I don't think it'll give you that much catharticness or not. But yeah, how about you?
Well, from the eye test, which is always the way I watch the games, obviously, it was certainly a game that got the pulse racing. It was very disappointing. I was very frustrated to see Liverpool play at Everton's level rather than stamp their authority on the game themselves. It did seem like, and your stats will confirm in a moment, it did seem that Liverpool were going long a lot more than they normally would because they weren't finding any width. And Liverpool's fullbacks both being booked in the early part of the game seemed to mean that service was going to be deprived to Salah and Gakpo on the flanks even more. It seemed to really compact the game into the middle of the park. Obviously, I've not seen any heat maps or anything like that. And that seemed to be the way I saw the game. And it really was a bit of a mess. And I think the fact that I'm not a massive fan of XG normally as a metric, but what I do like about XG is it tells you, I think, in a snap glance, whether Liverpool deserved to win the game or not. That's the one thing I do take from XG quite a bit. I don't know if I'm right or wrong too, you'll probably tell me, but it's one of those that I find that when Liverpool's XG is far lower than Everton's, you know that Liverpool probably haven't had a very good game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we'll do the top level summary if you want to put the screen in, but if a team stops us from curating over over 1xg, you might need to pull my screen in.
What was it?
That's not coming in on mine. But yeah, if Everton stopped that again. So Everton stopped us from producing over 1xg, which is one of the first times this season that a side has managed to do that. Like, that's just for whatever you can call it, bad process for us. You can call it Everton being noisy or whatever else. But yeah, you're right. From a first glance, looking at that and saying, this isn't a high quality game, right? Let's be honest here. Total shots of 16 in a Premier League game when we had well over 30 total in other games is not a particularly high quality game. But then that's not that different from a Merseyside derby. But yeah, the XG is low for us. The other key stuff, as people will know on the show, like 60-40 split possession, but again, that's fairly standard for us in terms of, I think Bournemouth are the only ones that have got us anywhere near 50-50. So yeah, that's fairly standard. Build tilt, as people know, is the share of possession in the attacking thirds for each side. Annoyingly, I think as you quite rightly pointed out, Eddie, it got a bit messy in the middle, and that kind of shows you here it's almost a 50-50 split in the field tilt, which is unusual for us because normally we do dominate that stats. We normally spend 60% of that time in that period of time, or even up to 80s, 90s. and we didn't really get a period of sustained pen. You know, the old and the clock used to pen sides in that final third. We didn't really do that very much here. It's also the first time, I mean, I'll have to go back and give you the exact numbers, but the first time in probably since pre-Christmas where we got outshot. So Everton had 10 shots to our 6, which is a fairly low bar for us to go to. We have more shots on target, which is great, and we have more in the box and the rest of it. And the other key one we look at is penalty box touches. So 16 to Everton and 19 for us is, again, just something we're normally in the 30s. 19 is normally what we do in a half, let alone a whole game. So it shows you we weren't progressing that ball into the box. And as Dave said there, the field tilt, yeah, is widely different. I just said that at the beginning. We would normally dominate that start. The key one as well that I always talk about is in the pack that you don't see a lot else is our ability to convert threat into XG. And we are down 82, which anything below 100 is a poor performance from us. Our process hasn't worked. And if we let them get above 50, again, that shows you defensively we weren't at our best. We let them get to 70, which is still okay, but it's not like, oh my God, that's brilliant. Whereas we were well below 100. So yeah, the top line stuff, it's really not a great watch. I think you mentioned long ball rate as well. So on the top level for the whole game, we were at 13% and Everton, unsurprisingly, at 27%. But that doesn't tell the true story. If we look at the 2 half splits, in the first half, our long ball rate was 10%. And I think you probably see some of the patterns we were in the first half, moving it around, the goal from McAllister. We were trying to play our game a bit more in the first half. The second half, that shoots up by 7%. I think we generally are going long, and if we pitch that by 15-minute quarters. So when we go up to 2-1 in front, our long ball rate was 9%, and then straight after that, it shoots up to 25% and 38%. So 40% long ball rate we finished the game at, which is one of the highest all season, whereas first half we're generally 12, 15, 6. So yeah, as the game wore on, we were trying to see, I think, if anybody watched it with Dom, Trent, Mo, there was a ball that Trent would win it, play it into Mo, to Dom, he'd set it back, and then Trent would clip it down the line. And that's pretty much what we were trying to do for the last 15 minutes, because the odd chance that Mo's in, he's in, right? And he's because Everton playing high. But what it does mean is you give possession away quite a lot. And for those who watched it, and I think you might have given it a bit of a prelude, but the Monte Carlos are not a great read, I'm afraid. They actually have Everton winning this game, which again is the first time in a while. Taking Plymouth out of the occasion because that was scratch card. The Oppo of, I mean, us to be at a 20% win rate for a game is, I don't think I've seen that all season. So this is ranking fairly low in terms of level of performance. The most probable score line was 1-0 Everton in terms of XG. The 1-1 was 18%, a 2-2 draw was 2% likely. So whereas 2-1 Liverpool, which it probably could have been, was 5%. So yeah, we definitely did break the bank at the Monte Carlo. We very much got out of that. Probably the Monte Carlo said we should have lost, whereas we got out of it with the draw. So maybe that's a positive we can take from it. But in terms of some of the other stuff, I know you haven't looked at this. I'm just going to go through it with you. But the past maps. So one of the problems we had was midfield was really messy. So as you can see here, the gap, the distance between our centre halves and our 2-8, 2-6s, because they were playing as a 2-6, is normally there a box difference. This is quite compressed. So it doesn't allow us to build very effectively. It means that the passes are coming from the fullbacks into the front line. And normally you would see a matrix in here where the links are coming in B, which shows us we would dominate the right areas. But if we go to one of the other plots, which will be on passing analysis. So if we look at some of the key areas here, this is our zone 14, the diamond zone, which is basically increases the chance of scoring from a pass from there into the box by about 4. We struggle to get anywhere near zone 14. and we struggled to get into Mo's area, the right half space. We did it in periods here, which is the first 15, which is about right, and then on 76 odd. But other than that, we struggled to get into those danger areas where we typically get into when we would then drive in the box. So yeah, it's a problem that we have. It's just something I don't know about you, but these games generally are epitomised by how well we cannot drop to their level. And at Goodison, we do have a habit of going down to their level, should we say? And I think we almost did that. If you look at the long ball charts here, our volume does increase second half, and it doesn't look too dissimilar to Everton's second half, which is a myriad of long balls. So yeah, I generally don't think we didn't play our usual way. For those who looked at Bournemouth games and the rest of it, we were in and around the areas we wanted to get to, but we were not. Our threat is largely away from the final third. We just weren't getting into those areas. It's just not a great performance in terms of us progressing. And Everton kind of did to us what they've always done, which is unfortunate. But it's sometimes not unexpected when you go to Everton. So yeah, overall, a very disjointed performance from us, not our usual processes, and considering the amount of passes, touches, nearly 800 touches, and nearly something like passes we had. But a myriad of passes in more dominance than them. You would have expected more from us than them. From that, we had nearly 529 passes, which is low for us, but it's nearly 200 more than Everton had. So yeah, it's there's some problems there. I think it's not a great thing, to be fair. Any points you wanted to question me on?
One of the things I would jump right out, I did a show, Media Matters, with David Lynch earlier, and one of the things that we said, and it's a very rudimentary way of looking at stats. I accept that it's nothing in your depth by any means, but it's and I see some of the comments there coming in. Stop with the LFC mad. Stop with the geeky numbers. Kind of the point of the show. There's other shows on the channel, lots of other shows that don't do this. So for those who have come for the numbers, you're in the right place. For those who aren't really interested in the deeper metrics and the analysis of the match, then this show probably isn't for you, and that's perfectly fine as well. We won't feel offended if you give up on the live stream and go and watch something else. It's entirely your prerogative. But this show is here for the people that want to see some of the stats. The two points. One, obviously the referees come under a lot of criticism for this game, and rightly so. Is there anything in the stats and that can show us what the referee's impact may have been on this game? Because there was the 2 yellow cards, obviously, that I mentioned at the top of the show for the 2 fullbacks, which I feel suppressed Liverpool and impacted the manager's substitutions probably in the game. And Everton did seem to win that. It was one of the stats of 29 free kicks given in the game, and 20 of them were in Everton's favour, with only 9 for Liverpool, which, considering the possession, is quite stark, I think, as numbers go. And the other thing from the comments as well is people are keen to hear what you made of the numbers, but for the midfield, a little bit deeper on the midfield. Obviously, it's one of Gravenberch's worst games, probably. He was withdrawn. How did he do? How did Szoboszlai do? And of course, how did McAllister do, that everyone's kind of praising as a shining light from this game for Liverpool? Okay, everyone, I think I've lost Dr. Felt briefly. We'll hope he returns soon. So I was trying to answer these questions. I'll put them on the screen while we see if Dr. Barts resurfaces. He is in Mauritius, so the internet can be a bit sketchy. I apologize for that. So we've got a couple of things here that have come in about Mac and Zobo, which I'm asking him. I'm here for the geeky numbers, subpar game for Grav and Zobo. Hopefully it'll come back and address that very soon. And then we've got interested to see how Mac profiled. He looked class in this again. It's another one that I'm hoping that Fella will be able to come back and address for us very soon. So we're hoping he restores his internet very soon. He's on his way back. I can see that he's kind of rebooting things just now as we speak. and we will get him back on to answer these. Now, Phil, I know I can see you're back there, but I don't know where you left us. So did you hear the question?
About, it was about any comments on Mac, which I can go back.
Okay, that's as far as I got. So it was about the referee, and then it was about Liverpool's midfield in particular, about Gravenberch obviously being withdrawn. How did this compare to previous games for him? Szoboszlai's impact seemed to be a bit nullified, and everyone saying McAllister had a good game. Seth F there saying Mac was on fire. So let's see if your numbers stack up on those two big points.
So we look at some of the inputs of the ref. So Jules is a myriad of things, but in that we demonstrate whether we were making the challenges which could have given us the foul count, right? So I think if you look at considering, right, we had 60% of the ball and they had 40, right? So they had 71 Jules and we had 67. So there's not a lot of difference. The foul count, I think, is something like, I think they had about a third of our fouls, whereas the amount of time they had was considerably less, if you get me, on the ball. So the ability for us to actually foul them was a smaller time period than them, yet we got more fouls given against us. So I think that gives you an indication of where we were in terms of the referee's influence on that side of the game. So every time, I think Dave's right, every time or seemingly, I'm trying to say a little bit neutral, but I'm just saying seemingly every time we went near an Everton player, even if we didn't touch them, they went over, they got a foul. So that would have counted against the dual stats, right? So it would be a successful duel. So that's why they're quite close, even though you would have expected a side facing Liverpool who had the less possession would have had a higher duel rate and a higher foul count, predominantly. So those two being the other way around shows you the impact of the referee for us. Okay, so that's some of the things you can look for. In terms of overall free kicks, I think I've got that on the top page. No, I haven't. I'll take that off this one, apologies. But in terms of players, so midfield is often a common question we do on these shows, and what's good and what's bad. I think Mac's line here is on the top. So he had a 71 pass rate, which is okay. That's the same as Dom. Might surprise you that. Curtis, when he came on, had 100%, just to let you know, which is incredible. I mean, Curtis is very good in those kind of games when he comes on just to retain possession. I know sometimes it's like, can you play it quicker? Can you play it quicker? But when you've got a lead or you get a lead and you want to sit on it, Curtis is the ideal player. Bournemouth away again. Came on last half an hour. He just kept the ball. It meant Bournemouth couldn't get anywhere near us, and it nearly worked again against Everton. So Mac's pass rate was good. In terms of his receiving success, so how well he was able to receive the ball in tight areas or wherever, is 83. Dom's was 90. So again, just giving you the comparison because one got some bad press, one didn't. That's not to be saying that Mac didn't have a good game. I think he did. In terms of what did Mac do for threat, so that's how did he do in terms of chance creation for us? He was involved in 55.2% of that, whereas Dom was 7.4. Mo again outshone everybody at nearly 20%. So it gives you an indication. Now Grav, I think, was another guy who said, how did he perform? 86% pass rate, okay. But when I look at where his touches were in a minute, where they were, 76% of his receiving success. So that's quite low for a 6. Normally a 6 would take safe possession of the centre halves. Yeah. So for that to drop to one of the lowest on the team indicates that he wasn't in the right position, or he was receiving it under pressure and he wasn't able to deal with that in that game. And he was also, I mean, he's not that much involved in the threat, but that's quite low for him as well. If we look at off the ball, so Mac is never going to win a lot of aerials, so 33%, so 2 out of 6. His duels, 9 out of 3. But again, remember, he was getting pulled up for fouls, right?
Yeah.
So he's not going to win that many. Again, not yeah. I can see why it was perhaps didn't seem like he was getting into the right areas. In terms of penalty box touches, Dom is normally in the box between 5 and 10 times a game. He was in there none today. Didn't have a touch in the penalty box today. Sorry, not today. Yesterday. For me, it was today. For you guys, it was yesterday. Yeah. And for Mac, he was in the box for once, which is quite high for him. Normally, he's between 5 and 0 touches in the box. So yeah, I think Mac generally had a very good game. Just because in case Dave ends up watching it in one as well, I've done my wagon wheels. But so Mac is here. He is par, should we say? He's above on 3 of the 7 metrics we measure a player by. So that's shots, which he scored from, and aerials, surprisingly. And Dom is above on 2 out of the 7 metrics. So that gives you an indication of our 2 midfielders. Grab, less said the better. We'll skirt past that one. Mohamed Salah, I think someone said to me, talked to me about him. Yeah, he's extreme on the number of shots he took. Considering we didn't have that many shots, he still managed to get our better ones away. He still created a lot more threat, and he's on par with all the other metrics. So Mo, to me, even though he didn't get a lot of the ball, created the most amount of threat, the highest amount of XG, was, I would say, in a game that needed a hero. Mo very nearly gave us that again. But yeah, I think that covers your points. I think you had the duels off ball, influence of the ref, and Mac and Mo were probably, Mac was probably slightly edged it, but Don wasn't that far behind. I think it's just sometimes he's on ball work when he's having to do a lot of off ball work. He's a reason for that. And if I go back to I can find you his off ball areas, which will give you an idea. So Dom off the ball was helping to cover Connor on the right hand side here, whereas Mac is again another ticket. Is a monster performance here, trying to help out with a huge side to help support Robbo. And to be fair, a lot of the threat that Everton were creating was down the right, whereas Mac was able to support Robbo in shutting the left hand side off. So yeah, that's another tick towards Mac over Dom, should we say. Grav doing a lot of sideways, but not a lot going forward. So yeah. That answers those questions.
I know I'm kind of asking you this cold, but is there?
That's right.
Everyone said, and a lot of the analysis that I've heard post-match, that this is very much a standout. We're not going to play another game like this again this season. The pressure that comes with it, obviously the intangibles as far as stats concerned, with the crowd and with the venue, Goodison's last stand and those sort of things. But is there metrics that show? Well, the one thing you will know straight away is, do these stats stand out differently from all the other games that you've covered this season, all the other games you've covered on this show this season?
100%. The stats line, even on the first page, this link will go out when we do UP, but they are some of the lowest numbers we've had all season. And the difference between us and the opposition, again, being a negative in a lot of those, again, it's unheard of. This is a poorer performance. Oh, that's really harsh. Everton didn't let us play our usual game. Okay, so Everton didn't let us play our usual game. The pass map, that is just not a shape we normally go by. Typically, for those who are used to it, we would normally have 18. There'd be a claw-like shape like this, and then there would be a crisscross metric between our attacking 8 and our 9. That is nothing like the level of pass network that we have assumed under a slot side. And that is purely down to the ref didn't let us get anywhere near our passing going. If you look at the volume of low-level passing, so that's this demonstrates any chain in passing that's below 5 would appear on this top line. Generally speaking, we have an equal percentage between all the categories, and we have 32% in the low to very low. That's over 50% in the low to very low. That again is a stat that we just don't generally see. Okay, normally we would see over 20% in the high, about 25 in the medium, and it would spread out a bit more. So that shows you we just weren't able to keep the ball for a long period of time without being called a foul, or being fouled upon, or not given, or having to go long. So yeah, I would say this is, in terms of performance, this is an isolated incident. This is not like Bournemouth or Forest or I can't remember the other game we had, but the period where we generally had good process. We just hadn't quite got the rubber to green kind of goal into the Forest. Yeah, if that makes sense.
The only other thing that was on the screen there was a question from Davey Boy 821, which was about Konate and Virgil van Dijk. We can maybe just touch on them very quickly before we move on to Wolves. He's asking if any evidence of them being rattled in the way that the commentary seemed to suggest.
During the game, I mean, regular listeners of UP, the rest will know that obviously everyone's got a WhatsApp group, but where Az was pointing out, this is one of BVD's worst games, really. So Virgil van Dijk, he came in at half time, he was at a 25% overall duel rate, which is ridiculously low for Virgil van Dijk. He managed to pull that up to 56. That is a very, very low lose that many headed. He only won 5 out of 9 aerials. That's just not heard of. That's just not a Virgil performance. Konate bailed him out a little bit by 8 and 8, which is decent. But what generally happens in our setup, and you'll know this from watching it, is that a lot of Oppo go, do you know what, I ain't bothering Virgil. I'm going to go and double up on Konate, right? So Konate stats look amazing. What happened in this game is they didn't. They kind of split it 50-50, and Virgil ended up losing a lot of the aerials as a result. His duel rate as well. Virgil doesn't normally get involved in duels, right? So you're looking at that. Normally that would be like 1, and he's won it. For him to even compete 5, 3, and lose them, it's just that shows you the level at which Everton made him play. It just wasn't something that was particularly great. I mean, Konate, again, his duel rate is normally higher. So for him to only be involved in 1, A, is down to the number of fouls he was called upon, and B, when Konate goes ultra aggressive, nicks it in front and stops the attack down the right, just wasn't doing that. The first goal is a big symptom of that. It just wasn't with his man. Loses it, they roll it in, and they get an easy goal. So, yeah, it's not rattled is probably a bit harsh, but you can see where they didn't have their best game. There's a couple of positive points that I would like to point out for you all, and this is courtesy of Dark Dan Kennett. This is still our 3rd longest unbeaten run in a single season, so not spanning 2 seasons. So this is the length of time we've remained unbeaten is still good. This is also the 4th highest points total of 24 games ever in our history. So in terms of, I know right now we're looking at it going, yeah, we should have gone and won the game. The referee, I do think Konate was fouled. It should have been stopped the goal, and he should have stopped a lot earlier. All of those things, we got out of there with a point, and we've still got the 4th highest points total that Liverpool have ever had after 24 games. So we are still in a very good position. It just feels shit like right now. Apologies for swearing, guys, but it just doesn't feel great because it's a derby, and we were literally 30 seconds away from winning it.
Yeah, it's after the watershed in Mauritius, so we apologise to all the UK viewers. Okay, before we move on and talk about Wolves and put the derby behind us, like we're hoping the players will, just that sort of mid-show reminder. We've got over 250 of you watching live right now. I think we've only got 1 like. So there's something out of tune there with the stats. We need to get that back on track, and we need to see that percentage and ratio of viewers to likes just creep up a little bit, please. So if you are watching this video live, and we know there's 250 plus of you doing so, please just take that second to go and smash that like button on YouTube, because it makes such a big difference. And hopefully, as well as the viewers creeping up, I can see that likes creeping up as well. And if you do leave a comment, and we're grateful for all the comments, they do really help the show work. If you do have the means to, please do use the super chat option and donate however little you can to the show, which helps us keep improving this content. And we'll keep bringing Stat Me Up for the rest of the season. We'll hopefully improve upon it more and more as a season progresses. So we need to look at Wolves now. That's our next issue, and Barts is kind of organizing the screen for us with that just now. So we're going into this game. Obviously, we don't seem to be too battered, but we are going to lose our manager and our assistant manager and one of our substitutes from in the shape of Curtis Jones to suspension. The manager and the assistant manager are watching from the stands, which means Johnny Heitinger, of all things, is going to be leading the team. I don't know if Barts will have any numbers on Johnny Heitinger leading a team. He won't. I'm pretty sure of it. No. Where there's only limitations even for Barts. But what can you tell us about Wolves' threats and what to expect from this game? Obviously, they have changed manager since the last time we played them at Molineux. what are we seeing since that change? Have they had an up? Have they had a lift? Are we expecting that lift to regress to the norm? Where are we with Wolves just now?
I mean, there's a snapshot where we are now, and we can use everybody to look at a bit of a trend and all stuff. See the impact of the manager. They have scored 34 goals. They should have scored 27, so they are running nearly 7 goals hot in terms of scoring, right? In terms of conceding, they have conceded 52. That is 52 goals. That's almost third highest in the league. I think it is 52. And they should have conceded 42. So they're actually unlucky defensively, unlucky attacking wise. Okay, so that gives you an indication. In terms of points, Understat has them at 20. Let's be kind. Let's say 24 points, and they have 19. So they're under by about 5. So Wolves, I think I said when we last played Wolves, I thought Wolves were a lot better than they currently were playing, and the stats still shows that out. Defensively, they are not performing at the level they should have been. So they are conceding more goals from the opportunities that they're giving the opposition. I.e., if you roll a dice, you're getting 6 out of 10 reds rather than you should be getting 5 out of 5, right? So it's just it's not quite where we are with that. If we look at the trended stuff, as you said, so what do? Big one we always look at on here is how many shots they have a game. I can't remember when Gary O'Neill was sacked. Has he got been in charge? But if we shooting just over 10 a game. Here they dropped that off to below 10 a game, and now they're back up to 16. But that was FA Cup, so ignore that. The key thing for us to look at is how many shots they concede a game in terms of opposition. So they were in and around 20. They have dropped that down to around 10. So they've managed to stop the opposition by nearly a tune of 10 shots a game, which is quite important. Yeah, that means that we're going to have to be accurate with our chances and create good quality chances. We do generally do that at home. That's an advantage of us. We do generally create good shooting opportunities. They typically have around 20 shots a game. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. In terms of what do they do for shot creation? There we go. See if it loads up. They were doing, they're not creating a lot, I have to say. They were, under O'Neill, they were typically doing about 2 to 6, 4 on average goal creating actions. They're now down to about a couple of games of 0 and then an improvement. Wow. So, that's not going to give you it's not filling me with confidence if I was a Wolves fan, but I'm just trying to give you some other ones in terms of the XG. So, on average, what they conceded, so they're creating around, so they were over the 1, and they're in and around 1.6 is Villa. They're not a lucky game, but I think Villa had some injury problems. So they're in and around the 1 per game. What are they conceding? So they've had some big numbers here, like 2, 2, 2, 3, 1. There's some big numbers to be conceding in terms of XG. And I know we can debate about whether XG is a big indicator, but if you can see that volume of shots and XG, that could explain why they're not quite where they should be in terms of the XG. So, Wolves could be a very interesting game. Played, we will largely have a lot of the ball. I don't think that will change from the last game. It'll be about our process. Can we get back to our midfield being involved, and can we create those shots? But we need to be able to utilize our strengths, which is the shots we have in a game, go and actually do that and take the opportunity to be correct. Be interesting to see who we pick as well.
Well, one point that I think it's more a sports science question than a stats question, but obviously Wolves haven't had a game in midweek. Liverpool have. They've had a full. Wolves have had the rest. They've had a full week to prepare. Does that certainly give them advantage in the first half? With the Liverpool cut and thrust of that Merseyside derby they've just played, and they're not going to be able to bring Curtis in, so you would expect Liverpool's midfield to go again. Obviously, Gravenberch was withdrawn early and McAllister. No, McAllister played. Gravenberch was the only one withdrawn early from the derby.
Yeah, I think so Wolves would have had a 4 weeks rest, so they would have had match day +4, which is 4 days of rest, and then some proper training, like without any worry about it. Whereas Liverpool will be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, match day +3, so they won't get a full recuperation period. We are used to doing that though, so it's not. This is not unbeknown to this squad. They are used to playing weekend, midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend. The problem is that so match day +4 is a measure of, so it takes that long to fully recover from a game. So if you get a match day +4, it means that your training past that will be should be a higher quality, and it looks go into the resulting game in, like, to use the cliche, the freshest way, right? So you won't have any fatigue, your levels of fatigue will be substantially low. Whereas typically you don't get a lot of those in a season because of the hectic schedule. Match day +3 is not too bad, but you still have a day's keeping over it. And if you have too many of not reaching 4, you carry on, that fatigue keeps eking up with the players, which is where sometimes you get a player just literally looks not on it, his touch goes and his proprioception decision making goes, which is where you would rotate. But as you said, CJ was sent off. So that 3 will have to go again. I would expect Endo to come on for one of them. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Jota came in and played midfield, which again he did against United when we were short in midfield. So there's potential there of what Slot could do to manage those minutes, but he's going to have to manage the minutes. On UP, we covered it meticulously. The midfield is the unit of which are have the less ability to rotate. If it seems they're going to hit career maxes before, because we simply, as I said, we're doing transfer shows and the rest of it, but we didn't sign 6. So therefore, we also are missing a body, if you like. So we've only really got 4 options that he really goes to. He uses Endo if he needs to, but anybody else, he doesn't really come on and take minutes. So so we've got a ton of games in this period. It is what it is. We'll have to play on rhythm. He will have to, for viewers, will need to keep an eye on the sub time. Okay, so against the weekend, he didn't make a sub till 70th minute because he was trying to save the legs of his more established players. At midweek, yes, there was a bit of a break glass option because he was trying to change the game up. But I think he went about 55 to 58 for his first subs. So we will need to see subs being made around the hour mark to get to then in the next game, you then flip the minutes round, ideally. All right. Costas didn't start this game, so I would expect Costas to maybe start this game, but then Robbo's been his first pick for Premier League games. I think Trent will come back in, having had a half an hour against Everton, and you have 3 days of training, so he should start. Konate and Van Dijk, Alisson, Mo. The 9 is up for debate. It depends how much Nunes is trying, because I know he's just had a baby, isn't he, and a few other elements that come into it. But we will need to do something with Diaz and Cody because they've played a lot of minutes recently. Diaz put in a full shift against Plymouth. Cody was a bar off. So there's just players that will need some decision being made. Whether the wall setup will give it, because Nunes likes the space behind still, or whether he just plays it because he needs to do a different player in there. But I think Nunes came on before Jota last night, didn't he? I think. Yeah. So therefore that might give you an idea about the priorities of his plan. But I think it's and Dave's right. Nunes did play well because he just had a baby. But it's one of those. So answer your question. The load's really important. We are going to watch those subs on about the hour 65 minute mark. See who rotates in, because it should give you an idea for the weekend. So the next week, which is against Villa. Expect Trent to come back in, and expect something in the 9, because I would imagine he might want to go with his first choice 11, which is Diaz in the 9 against Villa, not against Wolves. So that would be my things to watch out for. Curtis, I think is a 1-game ban.
Yeah,
right?
1.
Yeah,
2 yellow
so
cards, 1 game.
Yeah, so Mac might play a full 90 against Wolves. The CJ comes in for him at Villa. Might be something to think about.
Cool. Before we finish up, let's sort of transgress, shall we, into the transfer realm, because Wolves do have a striker that people are talking about. It's Matheus Cunha, and there is talk of he's just signed a new contract, but there's talk of a 62.5 million release clause in that contract. Do the headline numbers justify the investment in him? Is he someone that you would think Liverpool should be looking at?
I think me and Dave looked at him in the summer. He has some tendencies, don't get you wrong. He does get into those hot zones that we talk about with our wide forwards. I think it's just the same about output. And I know people get bored of me saying that, but with a lot of these, it's just how do we think he's going to scale up? So we did Samayo at Bournemouth, if I corrected it saying right, and there's signs that he is trending upwards in terms of his production. It's just that final bit he needs to put the finishing touches on in terms of actually scoring the goals or actually creating. But he is doing more of the stuff we need. But in terms of Cunha, yeah, it'd be interesting to really look at what he's doing. I'd be curious. I haven't run the stats on him personally, but it would be just trying to bring him on now. Actually, if I could find him, where would he have played? He didn't play at the weekend, which is obviously not very useful. So Wolves rested players at the weekend, which should mean they should be well refreshed. But we will see. Cunha, there you go. Have a look at his profile. So comparing him with forwards, yeah, he's not putting up big numbers, but he's, for those of you who do TMN with us, he's in around, for attacking numbers, he's in around the 70th percentile for some of the metrics, which is not bad. Shots total is 78th. Generally, we want our guys to be taking just sort of 5 shots. He's taken just over 3.5. So there may be something more to do in terms of that, taking the shots off. And that's the same as Samayo at Bournemouth. He gets in the right areas, but you've then got to take the shot on and do the rest of it. And but that's the difference. Mane was like this pre we signed him. So I'm not saying he couldn't be a good player for us, but and the boys will track that in the data at the club. But yeah, it's about, are you showing trending up signs, which he probably is doing, same as the other lads we've looked at. But it is that, do you back in to take the next step? He's 20. How old is he? Is he 25? So he's going out of that bracket that Edwards likes to sign him. That's the only caveat I would put in there. Edwards likes to go 24 below with a certain number of appearances. He's at 25. So unless he finishes the season like electric, I would put that really far down on the ranks in terms of the potential I signing it. And at £62 million, that seems a bit high for that age of player.
And the same age as Alexander Isak, who people want to sign for over 140 million as well. So it's,
but then that's the forward, isn't it? I agree with you, but I'm saying that's a forward, and forwards is an entirely different game. And yeah, the problem with Isak is his availability. He's still not played the minutes he plays for Newcastle. I think people will be surprised how few. It's more than he has done. I think he's had his best season in terms of minutes played, but it'll always be, if you're spending £150 million on a player or whatever it is that Newcastle going to charge you, you want him. You don't want another Jota. Is my problem. Like, Jota is brilliant, but he's not on the pitch enough. So that's what you don't want to be sat there in a year's time. We pay £120 million for a player and he's sat on the bench, or he's injured. That's just not what you want.
Yeah, fair enough. And that just about wraps up this episode of Stat Me Up. Then a huge thanks to Dr. Phil Barter there for guiding us through the numbers and offering these expert insights. And don't forget, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your fellow Reds. And remember, we produce over 100 free podcasts every month. Just search for Anfield Index wherever you get your podcast, be it Spotify, iTunes, wherever. This show will be available as an audio podcast, and there's a lot of podcasts as well which are only available in audio that we don't do on video. And you can unlock that, get all those shows for free by searching for Anfield Index on your favorite podcast device. And if you prefer those shows in full, because not all of the shows are available in full, some of them we cut at certain points, and they have adverts. So if you want to get rid of the adverts and you want all the shows in full, please check out AnfieldIndexPro.com, where from only £3.33 per month, you can remove the ads, you can have every show in full, and you can also join our Discord community where Dr. Barts and others are in VIP areas, and they can answer questions, share metrics and things like that. It's really worth your while as a Liverpool fan to join that community and get involved in the chat. So that's us. This will be a one-off from me, I think. Dave Davis will be back with Dr. Barts next week. At least I know I can kind of cover now and not feel too trepidatious about going and talking about the numbers, because Dr. Barts does it all anyway. So all you really hear is to be the everyman and to make sure you guide him in the right direction of what you want to talk about. And all the gems and all the jewels, he's the one that's unearthed them all. So thanks to him for that. I do apologize for his internet connection at points. I know it's been a bit patchy, and we will do a bit of post-edit work on this to make sure all the tech gremlins are ironed out for the release on the audio form. So we'll do that. So Phil, thanks for joining me on this. It's been great to hear from you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you again next week after Wolves, maybe before Villa or after. What you thinking? Any idea when it'll be?
Wolves is Sunday, isn't it? So that'll be tough. It might be after the Villa, to be honest with you, because UP will be out on Tuesday. Yeah, so we'll probably be after the Villa, but I'll touch base with Dave and we'll go from there. But yeah, a pleasure as always, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
So you'll probably have a longer one. You'll probably have 2 games to look at next week. You'll have the Wolves game, the Villa game, and, of course, those metrics on Man City's busted midfield. So that could be an interesting and intriguing one for people to whet the appetite for what's to come next week. So thanks for joining us, Phil, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Take care, guys.
And to everyone else, up those top of the table Reds.